Hi, welcome back to StoryHive On Location in Penticton. I'm Robb and we are live in Penticton with another incredible episode brought to you with support by TELUS STORYHIVE. I'm in Penticton speaking with Glenn Clark, an incredibly talented artist, as you can see from the work behind me. And we're going to dive into his story, some knowledge that he's willing to teach everybody, and we're going to dive into some color theory and your work. Thank you so much for having me.
Are you kidding?
How are you doing?
I'm good, good. Very good, thanks.
Let's dive into who you are and where you're from initially, and then we'll get into some more juicier questions.
The easy ones.
Yeah, we'll go the easy ones first.
Like fruit. Okay, I was born and raised in Kelowna, so the Okanagan boy. That's way back in '59, and back then the three cities in the valley were about the same size. I mean, the house is still there, but when I was growing up, it was orchards and wilderness around me, but now it's miles to that edge.
Yep.
I can't even see it anymore. But yeah, and then when I was 19, I moved to Nelson to attend a graphic arts school for a year. And then I came home, and then I went to Alberta to find work, and then I came home, and I went to Saskatchewan to find work, and then came back, and then went to Alberta, and several times over. and then somehow I ended up here in Penticton in 1991, and the traveling ended. So much for me being the breeze.
So settling in Penticton, it's funny because I did the opposite, coming from Penticton going to Kelowna. And you got to see the Okanagan basically grow, because Kelowna went from, like you said, a smaller town to now I think it's like 250,000 people there, if not more. Do you think that as your travels have gone, and you've worked in the arts industry yourself for a long time, since your 20s, I believe, right? Like out of school, you went in and got into the arts industry.
I was a little late getting into it. I went, like when I was 19, I did graphic design for a year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I learned some things. I can do hand lettering very well and whatnot, but I knew that wasn't really for me. So the fine art game would come along a little bit later.
And when you initially went to, like, you've been into art since childhood.
Yeah,
that
was my earliest memory.
For me, that's a magical thing to be able to turn something that, like you said, just a first memory into a career, and something where, like, the camera will see all the pieces in here, but I've sat down with a lot of artists, and I've never seen somebody who can capture a person so well, other than a tattoo artist. Mm-hmm. How hard was it to develop that skill set?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably blew a few of those off by the time grade 6 came around. I was that kid in school that the teachers hated because I wouldn't take any notes. All I did was draw in my book. So like social studies would be like car day, and then dragons would be my math book, and so forth. And I just look at the board, get enough to get my pass, and then carry on. It was already on when I was a kid. Time I was 12, I was selling pencil portraits already.
That's mind-blowing to me. That's incredible. How did you initially get into selling artwork, like at such a young age?
It's all through family back then, you know. It's
okay.
Like you get support from family and friends, and people always saw that I was like, that's what I'm gonna be. Obviously, it's like he doesn't do anything else. So, and so people would hire me to do drawings of them, but you know, it's you grow up and nothing changes, and then high school ended, and there it was. You know, it's like, how do you become an artist? It wasn't clear anymore, so it took a while.
Do you find that, because basically you had to, in my eyes, you'd had to trailblaze, because the arts industry has always been really prevalent in our culture, but I feel that paintings have become really dominant as something people want to invest in and want in their house is art, especially in the Okanagan. There's a lot of people who enjoy the artists we have. Has it ever been difficult to get to a point when you were starting your career and watching it evolve to the industry that it is now? The difference, have you noticed there's a major difference, or is it still relatively the same process to get your work out there?
Oh boy, getting the work out there, I suppose it's probably the same. I mean, I really shied away from showing in galleries when I was younger, probably for the reason I didn't feel I was ready. You know, as long as you're learning and getting better, than the stuff you made before. It was like, well, you know. So, but I finally started getting into some galleries and doing some shows, and it's just probably the same with anybody else. It takes a lot of courage to put a proposal and a package together and ship it off to a gallery and see what happens, or march in the door and introduce yourself. And it's because when you're rejected, it's never a great feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So if you don't apply, you don't get rejected, so it's easy not to.
Yes, I think we can all relate as creatives that's the hardest part, is putting yourself on the chopping block to be viewed.
For me, it's always easier when the people come to you and want to do something rather than me going to them. So
you've always found commissions and mural work is something more than trying to chase going to a gallery?
Murals actually was my mainstream for probably over 20 years. If you look at my CV, it was every year there was another one. That's how we put the shoes on our kids when they were growing up. So I was using my brush to earn a living. It was for so many years I did 2 jobs because artist wasn't going to do it. It's just not enough, I guess, opportunity out there for somebody. It's really hard to make a living full time as an artist, if not impossible in this country. Mm-hmm. But so I was at one point I was working at the art gallery part time, then I was working construction for a friend part time, and then the evenings was when I would paint. And then my beautiful wife, she used to call herself an art widow. I guess she still does. And she's a great artist herself. But I'm that guy that'll get up at 3 or 4 in the morning and find myself in the studio with a brush in my hand and a cup of coffee in the other.
Being a parent as well and trying to balance the life and build a career as an artist is probably extremely difficult too. Like that's one thing that I think I can relate to, is like being a parent and trying to continue to build that dream of like getting your art while also supporting is very difficult. So getting to a point where your art is, now you've got your own studio and your work is known in the Okanagan. That accomplishment must feel really good. I feel, you know what I mean? Like I imagine that.
It's never enough. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence.
That's the artist in you. You're gonna always be chasing for something, but like I sit here and look at these pieces of work and like to me some of them look like photos. Like greatly edited photos by a photographer. And it blows my mind that you can capture that amount of detail and put it from hand and mind onto canvas. So I'm curious, like, as you were growing as an artist, a young artist who has, at this point, when you were in your 20s and coming back to the Okanagan after school and everything, what was the hardest barrier to overcome besides personal getting yourself out there? But what was the hardest challenge for you to overcome becoming an artist, that this is your career?
Well, there's a lot of challenges, it's a lot. I mean, finances is one. To buy a tube of good red paint now is $70. So when you look at those Bob Ross palettes that he does in his famous shows, he's got those great big blobs there, it's like $100 worth of paint. Well, you'd go bankrupt in a week painting like that. It's like, so in the second half, I hope you can catch the show because I'm going to teach you how to avoid those little issues. But and then getting recognition is always something. And for a young artist, there's not many places to get recognition. There's group shows maybe, or a juried show. You try and get yourself in those kind of shows, and coffee shops, I guess, things like that, trying to get your work out there, whatever you can. And sometimes you get a lucky break. You meet somebody and they see your work and you get a commission and things roll along. You get a little bit of a wave going, and it's just it's a funny career that way. It really is. Sometimes you'll go for months without any gig whatsoever, like long time, and all of a sudden 3 things will happen all at once. And it's like, well, okay.
Does that ever become overwhelming when you have, say, 3 commissions on and do you ever give yourself a deadline with your commissions?
Well, commissions, I think there's a understanding that it's going to get done sooner than later when I take on a commission, so I really delve into it. But the works around here, I put no deadline on it. I'll have stuff that'll sit around for a year before I'll sign it. There's always a chance there's another stroke that could fix things or change things, make it better.
That was one thing when I came over initially to meet you and talk about the interview, was the length of time that you put into your paintings is mind-blowing to me. Because as somebody who I enjoy painting as a hobby, just to let loose sometimes. And I'm always so rushed trying to get the idea onto the canvas that I'm like, I don't think about the layers or like the textures and the colors and the lighting. And for you to spend like a year on a painting, it's like, that's a lot of energy and a lot of you put into something. And when it goes out to the world, do you ever feel like you're like releasing a child? Like, my kid's going to the world now. I'm never gonna see it again.
They're my babies.
Yeah, right.
That's why you make them tough and put a good frame on them, because you want your babies to have the best support and chance they can in the world. You know, paintings are easy to get damaged. They come off the walls and people don't know how to handle art. And next thing you know, there's something leaning into your canvas and it's got a tear or whatever. And I've had a few canvases come back injured. And
Yeah, you have a good story from the last time you told me too about one flying off the car.
That's making them tough. But that one I revived. It took 2 weeks. I had to sew the canvas on the edges again, and I had a hole in it the size of a football. It was all shredded. I had to replace the back and then get the front so it looked like canvas again with textured putties and whatnot, and then I repainted it. And I was pretty happy with that one. I don't think a curator in the world would have known where that hole was.
Right, and that's to even be able to like understand how to replace and fix a canvas is, I feel like a dying skill. A lot of people don't understand how canvases work. They just buy them and paint on them, which is the one thing. Like, I've wrecked so many canvases or like paintings from family members, and I'm like, oh, there's a hole in there by accident. I have no clue how to fix that. And I'm like, I ain't taping it, because that's the first thought of me is, do you tape it? But it has to be stretched, right? And I feel like that's a whole other skill set that you have to know. Did you ever stretch your own canvases?
I make all my canvases.
How is that process? Like,
well, I'll show you in the second half of it. It's not a big deal, really. It's part of it's quality control, part of it's finances. Like, to buy a canvas even this size, you know, it's going to maybe come up close to $200. I don't know. It's not cheap for these canvases now. Not only that, I've seen some of these smaller canvases that you can buy, and you know what, you can get like a canvas that size, and sometimes you can pick it up for $15-20. I can't make it that cheap for the small ones. I don't really work that small anyways, typically. But man, the canvas, I mean, you can tear it with your hand, or if you go to staple, it just comes apart. And I'm not sure if it's really canvas or if it's some sort of a paper product that they're using. So there's that involved too. So it's, but I've always made my own things. Right from the get-go of painting, you get the idea, and then you figure out the scale you want, and you can create to that scale. And then there's also the other prep, was just getting the canvas ready. So I'll usually put about 5 or 6 coats of gesso down on it and sand it down in between, so that the canvas feels more like a paper surface than a canvas surface, so you don't have all those obnoxious little bumps. Oh man, it's annoying.
Right, like
so it's like it's a few days just before the paint even hits a canvas for me working on them. So, and that's a springtime job. You know, it's the winter I paint, and in the fall I make all my canvases, and I'm, you know, and I'll get all the wood ready and make all the sawdust I want.
I love that. For me, that's the true artist in my eyes. Is like, you take from, you make your canvas, you paint, you deal with your paint, and you do it all for the love of it. There's no like you can go, like you were saying, you can go and buy a canvas like this, and you're going to be spending easy $500.
No, I don't think that much, but
no?
Probably a couple. You know,
I know that the ones at the dollar stores that are like this big are like $5 now. So I can imagine genuine canvases and the size scaling. The price is insane. And that's, for me, that's such a cool thing to see, that you not only do it yourself, but have always done your own canvases. Do you feel that, have you, like, obviously you've worked with other canvases, but do you find the ones that you make are, because you have the control of how much stretch is on it, do you feel that that's so much more better for your artwork versus trying to buy canvases?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to have an assistant. Every artist wants an assistant, but then, you know, no, get that thing tugged a little tighter or whatever. I mean, there's quality control. I mean, if you don't have any assistant, you got nobody to blame, but at least your quality control is not an issue, right?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing too. It's like, how, as an artist, how would you go about like getting an assistant? Like, 'cause that's one thing I've never even imagined, is having like
There's artists that have that. There's some famous ones too. I think Kent Monkman, he's got a whole team of assistants. He doesn't even paint anymore. He makes these great big paintings, bigger than mine.
Oh, wow.
And I think he just signs them. Yeah, it comes up with the concept, and he's
Are
got
they
it.
abstract or are they
No,
like realism?
they're representational.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, that goes
mind-blowing.
back to Rubens. He had a factory of guys. And, I mean, back then, if I was born in the 1500s, I'm sure I would have worked for Rubens or something, and he probably would have said, "Well, Clark, you're the fabric painter," and that's all I would have done. You know, you know, some guy would be a sky specialist.
I guess you don't even think about that too, like the history of art, unless you're taught the history of art about teams and scales like that, of the works that they were doing, because those would be for like giant tapestries and stuff, correct? Or like murals, like giant murals.
He was doing big. I mean, he was working for the kings, you know, the King of Spain or something.
Like their giant walls,
or the Pope, or you know, and it's just all these big cathedrals and things. And
that'd be insane. That'd be mind blowing to have that opportunity to paint something that would last thousands of years, like the inside of the temples. And
you know,
stuff.
that's part of the charm of being an artist or going into it. It's just the idea that in a few hundred years, maybe your art's still there, and somebody will wonder about who that artist might have been, or you know, talk about you again, because everybody else would be just disappeared to time, and we were all dust at the end, right? But geez, I don't know now whether there'll be anything around in 200-300 years the way things are going. So
Yeah.
that might be a dream that's thrown right out the window.
And I feel like a lot of nowadays art has become, there's a lot more digital aspects to it, which is I love and kind of despise at the same time, because the work you do is mind blowing. Like you can see, like this painting right here, which what we'll look at after, I constantly stare at it, and it's just the way you capture the lighting alone boggles my mind. It's not even the imagery in the background and the clouds and like everything, but like the cheetahs themselves, the light that hits them. I'm like, you captured it so perfectly. I've always wondered how artists can see shades and tones and shadows and lighting like that. I'm slowly understanding it through photography, because you have to understand it if you're doing black and white photography and stuff like that. But I've never really seen an artist who can capture lighting the way you do on skins.
Lighting is something I studied in university. I took some courses in the drama department, and then I had some friends that were into photography, so I was always my ear on it and always had a keen eye on it. So I mean, I think for what I do, photography is a very important part of it. So I do a lot of my own photographies, and lighting is something that I'm very aware of when I'm doing my shoots.
When you're doing your shoots, do you ever have, because there's some pieces on the wall that are landscapes, like we spoke about that one, where it was you wanted to replicate and really like give like homage to a picture by painting, and then you decided it needed like the warriors on it. And when you're going and you're like taking your photos, do you ever find that you're going into it with a vision and end up coming out with something completely different? Or are you just completely open to the process fully?
That's a good question, because more often than not, when I have the vision or whatever, I stick to the plan. You know, but sometimes, you know how plans are.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, and I know the painting you're talking about, we'll show you everybody later. It's I don't know how to describe it. I just felt that the world just didn't need another landscape painting at that point, so I had to change things.
That's what I love about it. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, you went into it thinking, we could do a landscape painting, but we need medieval knights on it. And I think that to me is like, that's the artist in you. That's like, even with these ones beside us, where you have the vision of what you wanted to do, but then you're like, I want to change all the animals, and I want to change the way it looks. And like, to me, that is one of the coolest series I've seen in a long time from painters, is this one beside us. And I love it so much. But I find that a lot of artists aren't willing to, unless they're years into their career, they try to stick in the lane, and once they found it, and they're scared to kind of branch out and do something completely off the chain that nobody would think about. Do you ever find that you as an artist are always trying to push yourself in different directions, or are you happy where you are?
Always pushing. If you start making things and it becomes really popular and they're selling, I'll just quit doing it and do something else. But it's, I mean, you only got so many years to work, right? I mean, so if I have 1,000 paintings I want to get done and I can only do 500 of them, you got to pick and choose and work towards it. But yeah, it's maybe I get bored easy with a subject, but I get onto a subject and I'll be on there like a dog on a bone for a few years, and then there's a great big stack of stuff kicking around and it's like, I better move on, do something else.
Yep.
But I want to try different things with the brush. So I want to do, well, most of it is portrait based. I mean, it's always been the backbone, but when I was doing these portraits, a lot of them were set in these beautiful pastoral settings, and I was doing landscapes as well. I realized, well, I should try doing some landscapes. I wouldn't be the first portrait painter to also do landscapes. There's been some great painters that have done both. So I did some landscapes for a while. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of landscape painters. And then I started doing things that always interest me, historical things. I was starting to do some old hockey paintings. I'm a hockey buff. I love hockey. And when I came to Penticton, I realized there was zero done for the 55 world champion Penticton Bees. There was no billboard. The arena, they had a display case which was empty, and it was kind of embarrassing. So I contacted the team, some of the remaining players, and one's still alive. But anyways, they came down, gave me photographs, and I wanted to dig into life off the rink, the dressing room stuff. To me, that's always where the guys are having fun, or they're being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing some stuff on the Penticton Bees and helped them get the arena displays back up to speed, and did a mural in town with the Bees. And I mean, that mural was great because it was the down payment for us buying this house.
That's the one on the Elks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, I just clued in that that's your work.
Yeah, it's like,
I've always admired that painting. That is, like growing up in Penticton, I was like, I love how big and beautiful that painting is. So it's kind of getting to sit down with you and realizing, like, putting two together. I never clued in.
That was a crazy piece, because I was working on top of a garden bed with rocks, and of course I had 28 feet, so I had 4 flights of scaffold to get up, and I was working on a rock bed. It wasn't ideal, but anyways, it was almost done. I was right at the top. I was painting the flag, and it was like a Sunday morning. So I don't know why, but a Sunday morning is always when I get knocked or something, almost killed. I've been almost killed at least 2 or 3 times painting on a Sunday morning. It was early, and so there I was. It's like, I don't know, 7, maybe the lights up. Town's dead. I'm painting, and this windstorm came out of nowhere. And I'm telling you, it must have been 80 miles per hour. The whole scaffold was just rocking, and all my stuff disappeared. Like the paints, the brushes, everything gone. And I could see it just disappear, going 80 miles an hour and across the street and into a parking lot and just gone. It's like, and I'm crawling down the scaffold, hoping I can get down there and before it come flying off. But that one I made it. But yeah, that was a fun piece. Yeah.
Murals too, I don't think people realize. We spoke with Anjanae Shepherd, and she's done murals as well, and she made a very valid point that I never clued into, and it's the physical grueling aspect of doing that scale of a painting and being up there for that long, and like,
you want scaffold. You don't want ladders. Working off a ladder is just killer.
But even being up there, and it's like, oh, I got to go to the washroom. I got to climb down 4 sets of scaffolding and run across town to get to it. Right?
Let me tell you one story. Now I was working at the Elks Hall, so I come down. I need to use the washroom, so I just go around the corner into the Elks, and they see the artist. So hey, the artist is here. So anyways, time I came out of the washroom, there's like 2 or 3 beers bought for me. Yeah, so it's like, oh my goodness. So I wash these back, and then I go back out to work, and it's like this. Now I have to use the washroom again. And I go back in, and it was just no good. Painting and drawing do not mix. Do not paint, drink and paint. So, anyway, so I was having to get in my car and drive home to use the washroom because it was just easier.
Yeah, that's so funny. And that is like and just being up there for that many hours, because you're not just up there for doing like a 2 or 3 hour session, right? You're
You
up there
get yourself comfortable. When you're painting, and Dreen's right. It's like it's hard on you. Your shoulders and necks. If you're not in the right position, you're going to really get hurt in this game. So you want to be facing yourself dead onto where you're painting. And where you got a mirror, you got all the square footage. You know, you're standing, you're sitting. So I always used to have like a milk carton would sit on or sit on the edge of the scaffold. But always try your best to get yourself in a position where you're not going to get too pinched.
Yeah, because it's not...
It's very active work, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I don't think people realize, especially when you're doing like a whole side of a building. That's weeks of work, right?
Months.
Yeah, like it's not easy on you, and you're out there in the elements, and that I can imagine is also difficult dealing with paint in like rainy days or when it's too moist out, and then you're sitting there waiting for it to dry to hit the next coat or to do another section. Does that ever become, I don't want to say annoying, but when you're just wanting to get the project done and you're in grind mode and inspiration's there, is it hard to step back because you're like, I gotta wait for this to
or even worse, you have a regular job that's pulling you from this site.
Yeah, you're like, I just want to stay.
Just kill me.
Yeah. 'Cause at that scale, it's crazy. I feel that, like that for me, murals are like the NHL. Like that is when your major pro is like you're hitting these major pieces, and that's just my eyes. I know it's not like the reality of painting in the arts world, but like to hit big paintings for me is like you hit the rock star, like you're on the stadium.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like that's how I see it. So when I see your canvases, because it's intimidating to hit a painting that big. Like it's intimidating to hit a small painting and put it out, but to put something out that is massive and has so much time invested in it, I find would be, like that alone is such a massive accomplishment. You're just always pushing. Do you ever see that, like, do you have a limit of like the ultimate goal that you want to accomplish? And then you'll be like, all right, I can retire happily now because I've finished this painting.
Someone once told me you're only as good as your last painting. That's a mean thing to say. Keeps you pushing anyways. But
That's a good way to say it too, eh?
yeah, you know, and if you're exploring in your art, you know, that's not a great thing because when you're exploring, you're usually going to make mud and whatnot, and so maybe it's that part of my career is behind me, I guess. Kind of sure-footed now with the paintbrush.
Yeah, you know what you want in your vision, you can achieve it, and that's...
Let's go back to that Penticton B mural. The picture I worked from was given to me by Kevin Conway, the Crusher. He was a defenseman for the old Bees. And he had to get it back from the BC Hall of Fame, which he had given it to. The picture was about this big, you know, back in the old days, it was black and white. The faces were, you know, not the size of a pinhead, but at least the knob size. They were puny, right? And when you put a spyglass on it, you could see the corners of the eyes with the little glints and everything. The detail was there, but I had to transfer that 1.5 by 2.5 inch painting into 28 feet by 40 feet or whatever it was, right? It was hard, and that was before the digital age. It was, you know, I didn't have all those skills. I had a friend who had a really good camera, better than mine, and he made a regular size picture, and I could see things better. But you know, scaling up, it's always an issue, right? And
yeah, you don't think about that too. Like, how did you go about? Besides the scaling up, like, did you ever to find finer details? Because when it blows up, it's obviously going to lose quality. So did you ever have to like study that smaller piece?
I'd come home and I'd be studying it and making sketches, and I'd take those to the wall and work from that.
It's mind blowing. The things that you would have to do just to be able to get like to accomplish a piece is versus now you're just like, oh, crop, blow it up.
I've embraced the digital era. I used to be all analog, but and I think it's better for me working with the digital technology. The cameras are just, like you say, that print that you can, you know, if you get a digital print like that and you had a face that was that big in it, you're not going to see any glints in any eyes with the printing process. The old ones, you know, the printing process from 1955 was 100 times better than it is now. But with that image, I can go onto my computer and I can scale it up to the size, and I can play with the contrast, and I can find things in deep shadows that I can't see. And I'll show you guys later in the second half of the show, an example of just that. But I think it makes the paintings better. So, yeah.
Do you tend to put them in the black and white, or just add more contrast?
Pardon
Like
me?
when you're looking for your highlights and your shadows from an image, instead of adding contrast, like to have them pop out a little more, do you ever reference to like black and white photos so you can see the full like shape of it?
Not really, no. It's not something I've really ever done. But
Okay. I was just curious because for me, that's how I see that. I find that the easiest way for me.
You go to black white. And
Yeah,
you can see
because then I can see, oh, there's my highlights and stuff versus
okay, yeah.
because my brain isn't trained to understand fully yet where the lighting hits properly unless I do it like that. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I can see where all the highlights are.
I held back painting for several years. I was just a drawer, and graphite and pencils that was my tool. And learning where there's light, there's going to be a shadow somewhere, right? And for me, the biggest problem was always I took my shadows and I lightened them up a bit, and I took my highlights and I darkened them up a bit, and I was bringing everything towards the middle, and everything was flattening, and I had to really push those shadows harder, and bring up those highlights, and then sometimes you can take them too far as well. But it was one of those things that I had to overcome as far as I realized as a younger artist.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like I find that there's a lot of self-taught artists out there nowadays, or who are learning from YouTube videos. And I find YouTube videos are so rushed to go over the information that they don't tell you the key little things that matter that you would notice through experience, and you would only get from somebody who physically has dealt with that multiple times and knows how to get around it. So I find that speaking with an artist who has developed not only an incredible style, but understands art from inside out and from a photography aspect too, I feel your knowledge is extremely valuable for younger people, especially younger artists nowadays, because my biggest fear as a person who loves artwork and as a musician is the younger generation picking up a brush versus picking up the digital pen to do digital art. How do I phrase this? Do you see, I want to say like a renaissance in the future coming with canvas and ink and paint again, and steering away from digital artwork and coming back kind of back to the original roots of what it is happening? Because I find there's a huge not only an AI artwork takeover, but a digital artwork where it's graphic designing isn't done by hand, it's done on the computer. And a lot of backgrounds for shows aren't done by hand anymore, they're done by animation and stuff like that. As where I think it's almost lifeless compared to when you watch the old shows that are hand-drawn. Like that's one thing I'm very big on right now is like my kids are watching all the classic hand-drawn animation. Because Disney? And even other ones, but just strictly because of how slow-paced it is and how there's more life to it versus these flat, dull, animated shows. Do you teach younger students?
I used to have an art program when I worked at the art gallery for a number of years. It was a Thursday after school program. I had a number of students with a lot of talent that came through there and actually went on to art school and stuff. Yeah, but you're right though. I am the kind of the Paul Bunyan of the art world. Everything's gone digital, and here I am still kind of painting.
Like you make your own canvases. So for me, that's like mind-blowing and extremely inspiring, because it is like you can still do it all by hand and make it in this day and age and not have to worry about the assumptions of what art should be nowadays. You can still take it back to the roots, because I feel like a lot of people are stuck in their, it's not a negative aspect, but there's a lot of people who are afraid to express themselves fully out of fear of being canceled or judged for what they say or what the artwork they do. We spoke with Shannon Lester is an incredible artist from Kelowna, and he does a lot of different type of work, but he also does nudes, and people didn't enjoy that. And it's what he enjoys doing, is all different types of like these weird, unique, mythical backgrounds and stuff, and he creates these characters. And he found that he got a lot of flack for the ones that he enjoyed doing the most. Do you ever feel you have to censor yourself?
Censor myself?
Or more or less like censor topics or like specific styles or ideas that you've ever wanted to paint, but the times don't call for it, I guess?
I've done some nudes, I guess, but I mean...
More or less just controversial themed, not per se that, but like, has there ever been an image that you were like, oh, this is like as an artist, we like to make a statement?
I think I make some paintings that I want to challenge the viewer, for sure. You know, a couple years ago I did a painting, it was the COVID painting, so I spent about 4 years on it, but it was a life-size horse running through the canvas, and it was a war scene behind there.
Oh, wow.
I'll show you an image of it later. I don't have it around. It was so big I had to roll it up to get it out of the studio.
Wow.
and so I had to build a stretcher bar that would come apart too. All my stretchers are all glue and screwed, and that one I had to get some hardware so I could take it apart. But anyway, the foreground was just a rug of rats crawling up through all the bones, and it was a hard painting. And but other than that, controversy, I don't think controversy is really something that I shoot for in my paintings. I don't want my paintings to be known as because they're controversial.
I guess controversial is the wrong word, but more thought-provoking, I guess.
Yeah, I like to think all my paintings are going to be a little bit
thought-provoking, yeah, because like they're very thought-provoking. I'm just curious, is like when you're approaching it, or for example, there's specific songs that I don't think I'd ever write, but I know that like it would be great to get them out, but the world isn't ready for them yet, so I'm waiting to write those songs because it's not the time for them. Has there ever been a painting where you're like, okay, I have this amazing vision, but the message behind it won't be fully understood yet?
I'm not sure I think in those terms. No.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I like that because you're very, like as a person, you're very free-spirited. You know what I mean? Like you're very laid back and enjoy what's coming to you. You know what I mean? So I find it's enjoyable to speak with many different artists and their views and how they think. I find it very enjoyable. Over your career, what has been your favorite piece of work that you've done and accomplished? Or top three, because I know you've done so many.
Well, I'm going to say about 12 years ago, I did a series of works, and it was we called it Whack'em Sack'em, and it was based on the NHL hockey guys from the 1960s, the golden age of hockey. No helmets, and I was working with metal. So these were metal sculptures that I was attaching to wood panels, a little bit bigger than that. They were about 4 feet square. And I was buying Creasel and signboard. It was a nice thick 1/2-inch panel, and I'd be painting the rink on that, and then attaching the figures on top of the rink. Mm-hmm. And the figures were like a low profile 3D, and the metal was the funnest part, because my neighbor Mike's he's a brilliant mechanic and blacksmith, and so with him behind me, I could do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So and there's my assistant, but he's a partner, and so I was making these sculptures, and I get these great big sheets of metal, and I'd be dragging them out, like I don't know, -10 and cold, and 7:30 in the morning, and I'd be out there drawing with my grinder, cutting them out. It's not be coming out of me, and then freezing on the metal, and that cutting it out. And I know all my neighbors, they think I'm nuts. I know it. But anyways, that's okay. And so I did this series, and they were kinetic interactions. So you could pull on a handle, and they would do tricks. Like I had this one where there's 2 sculptures, one on top of each other, and it was the one on the bottom was Brad Park. It was taken from a 1976 photo in a semi-final game, and the guy on top was Dave Schultz from the Philadelphia Flyers. The guy who holds the most penalty record still. He was a bad guy. Anyways, he's got parked down. He's like this, and you pull on the handle, and the arm comes up, punches him right in the head. The head snaps back, and behind the sculptor is a tooth pops up, a bloody tooth, and it all comes back down, and it makes you laugh your guts out.
That's so
every
funny.
single time. It's like, oh my God, it's
That's
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah, so I made this Whack'em Sack'em show. I spent a couple years cutting out sculptures and making a show, and I toured around BC for a bit. And I think that's part of the problem with Canada. It's so darn big. It's hard to get your work out. People got excited when they saw Whack'em Sack'em. Like just, we've got to get this to Russia, or we could need the Hockey Hall of Fame, and just to get excited. I've never seen that with my work quite like that, and so I made all these packages and I sent them to galleries right across the country. I think I sent 24 packages to try and get a show, and that was the last time I ever did that. And I got 2 replies back, and it's like, wow, 22 of them didn't even bother to thank me for sending them a package, and it really kind of struck me about where is the state of the gallery systems in Canada right now. I mean, when Harper was here, he got rid of we had a transport service before, so it was a non-profit kind of thing where galleries could put a show in the semi-truck, and it was going back and forth across the country every month.
I didn't know that.
So you could get a show from a Nova Scotian artist, say, and the expenses would be not going to kill you. Now that's gone, and you never get shows from far away because it's so much money to travel a show, to build a crate for a painting that's that big over there, or even this one. But if you get a 6 by 5 foot painting or 7 by 5 foot painting, and you build a crate for it, now you got a 200-pound thing that's going to cost you $600 to get to Edmonton or something, right? And it's like, I'm an artist. I don't have $600. Gallery doesn't have $600. We're starving. Yeah. It's always the first thing cut. So it's I do the scale. I love the scale. I mean, when I was in university, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it never seemed to end. But you also have to learn how to store that scale, because a lot of it's. I got stories. I filled my mom's place up. I filled our place up. I filled the garage up. I got all these big paintings. I'm still making them. Oh my God!
Right? No, I can imagine.
But that's an issue. So yeah.
And like you were saying, the art galleries, they're not, from what I've seen, they're not super popular with younger generations. So how do you make them want to come and understand art, right? If it's not like growing up, we used to just go to the art gallery because it was cool, or you'd go there and hang out and you'd take a look around. But I don't see, with everything being so like in your face all the time, do you feel that like the art galleries are going to become just like ghost towns or shut down eventually?
I don't know if that's, I mean, that might be a little dramatic, but you're right. It's not enough that's being done to encourage the upcoming generations to become members of and supporters of and regular visitors of places like art galleries. And, why wouldn't you? So what do you want to do this weekend? You're 14 or whatever. Let's go check out the gallery. It's free. Some cool stuff down there, So, I mean, how do you get those kids to take that step, though? I mean,
that's the thing. Is
is it an education process? Is it coming out of, everybody's just on their telephones now, right?
Yeah.
They're getting everything from there. So maybe they should have these little pop-ups. Go to the gallery.
Go see art. Visually see art. Because that's one thing that I love about art galleries, and one thing like we were mentioning, like even with bands, the touring industry has gone down 50% in the last 5 years. So major bands aren't even able to afford touring to come to Canada, let alone in the States, because it just costs so much. So if the arts, which has always been something that has like defined us as cultures, from the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, and that is what we remember. We look at their artwork, and that is what defines their culture. At the end of the day, as we find their artwork. Yeah. And we build it, we realize their society, but it feels like we're very open to accepting history's artwork and keeping it alive and thriving. But when it comes to modern day artwork, and keeping the culture alive, it's very like back burner, which is, for me, should be opposite. There should be a lot more supports for the arts because it is our culture. It is what we're leaving to the future generations. And I think it's like, it's a running theme in the show is like, as an artist, it's our duty to educate and to teach and inspire. So the one benefit I find nowadays versus like when I was growing up is there is a huge push for like clean living and doing things that are natural and like being in the environments and getting back out into that with the younger grads. They don't drink as much as the younger, like my generation did when we were kids.
Oh, we had you guys beat too.
Right, and that's what I mean. Like the what is the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say like addiction factors, but like the roadblocks of the generations are slowly being pulled out, and the things that we grew up with in the past being very popular are not. Like the sales for alcohol has dramatically dropped in the last 15 years.
You know, maybe it's just the reality of the cost of living now. I mean, who can afford it? Let's be honest. When I was young, coming up, I mean, it was daunting to do things like be an artist. But back then, I could get rent probably for a couple $100. You know what I mean? Or a case of beer was $10 or less, or whatever. Gas was
Even
50
paint
cents.
cost.
You know, it's like the expense of life now is, 6-10 times more. But the salaries are only twice. So it's like to get into a house now is almost impossible for a young person. I thought it was for myself. I squeaked into one. I had a lucky break, and I was able to buy the house that we're in. But I didn't think I was going to get one. With the path I was on, I was a little late getting into home ownership. But now I'm thinking, okay, if you're a young artist and you're living in Vancouver, you're 23, where are you working? Because you're just scrambling for life. You got 3 jobs. You're paying, $1,800 for rent. Everything is so expensive, right? Or a musician. How do musicians make a go of it?
Yeah, look at it like
how?
It's a business. And that's where it takes the love out of it, right?
Yeah, so maybe it's better if you get into smaller centers. You're in a village in Saskatchewan, and your house is $50,000, and you're not dealing with these extreme overheads. Maybe then. I got some friends that just moved to Saskatchewan and have done just that. They had enough of this huge
Has it made it difficult as an artist, like you were saying? You went from prices of paint and materials alone have skyrocketed too.
They've kept up. I mean, that tube of paint that I said was $70. I'm gonna say 25 years ago it was 40. It made me gulp, right? And so, but in terms of like a loaf of bread was 89 cents, and now it's $4. So I mean, bread has taken over the increased portion of, because maybe the paint companies know there's only so much us artists can actually give.
Because it's expensive. Like paint is expensive, and then you don't want to waste it.
The good
right?
stuff is, and then that's one of the things that when I was teaching, it's like you need proper tools. And I don't believe in student paint. It's just like somebody gives you a great big tube of red student paint. Hey, it was a great deal. It's $20. It's like, I'm just like, oh God. And you got to be nice and take it, I guess, but you're never going to use it. You give it away at a yard sale or something. Maybe I'm an art snob now, but.
Well, you know what works and what you enjoy working with, and
it's got to work.
Exactly. You have a preference, and there's nothing snobbish about knowing what you do and what you need to achieve what you do. It's like a rider for an artist. That's how I see that. You know what kind of paint you need to provide the job done.
Yeah, that's one of the things. My beautiful wife, when we were young, I had the 2 little kids like you. There was no money. Like our bank account never got over $1,000, ever. It's always like check to check, and working 2 jobs at the time, and then painting in the evenings, and it was you need to got to find a way. You just got to find a way.
When you look back from 1991 to where you are now, from when you first moved to Penticton, do you think you'd be where you are today?
If I didn't move here?
Just in general, looking back at over your career from the last 35 years.
It was a great question, because when I got out of university, out of art school, there was that great big void. It's like my studio was gone. And then that was the backbone of my life. So all of a sudden that fall, it's like I was already living in Penticton, but I didn't have a studio. I was working wherever I could on the side of a fence. I built a studio in my backyard. I was renting this property on Scott Avenue. And I spent $100 to get the wood A-frames built, and then everything else was found lumber. It was like, and my oldest daughter was just born, and she was young, and I'd put her on the bike rack, and I'd ride around town. I was multitasking, so I was trying to get in shape for hockey and hang out with my daughter and look for spare wood. So I'm going down the alleys, and there's a construction site or whatever, and somebody's got an old door frame thrown out in the alley, and then I'd mark it down in my head, and then at nighttime I'd phone my buddy Colin, and we'd go out with his old truck, and we'd throw all the stuff and bring it back to the yard, and I'd turn that into a studio. So I had a place to paint. I needed a place to paint. And my wife always was behind me. She never questioned me buying art supplies. Oh, you need it, and that was great. But, if I bought an extra 6-pack of beer for a hockey game or something, I heard about it.
Priorities, that's why.
Priorities,
the paint
baby.
is prioritized.
Yeah.
If you could, because you've worked in the arts industry, not just as an artist, but like you said, you've worked in
Both ends.
And managed and helped with art galleries. From your perspective, if there was one thing you could change about the art industry that would be beneficial today, what do you think it would be?
Well, I think it's a quick, easy fix, to be honest. But it's always politics in the way. Is it federal? Is it provincial? Is it local? But, there's always old buildings around that are not being used. And artists don't care if the floor is pretty. They're going to drop paint on it. But, it's like if every single town had an old building, a city building, and there's always a warehouse or, an old hall that, nobody's using anymore. Take it and let artists get in there and let art collectives thrive and have a place. And even if it was temporary, another place would come up. And, when I got in town here, it was my friend Dennis Nielsen, also a really good artist, but he was working towards the show, and he knew a bunch of people in town, so he phoned some guys, and next thing you know, we were above the Down Under in the and so the Down Under nightclub was, and we were on the top floor. It must have been, I don't know, 3,000 square foot. It was an apartment, not an apartment, it was like I don't know what business was in there, but anyways, it was just a great big open space with the floor was peeling up. It was, and perfect, throw some artificial lights behind you, and we'd be painting away, and at 3 a.m, the bar would empty out, and we'd over the window and watch all the chaos, and it was kind of entertaining. But something like that, and then I'd invite other artists in, and we'd have a place, and then that place ended, and then we found another one. It was the right across from the Penticton Art Gallery, where the Eye Center is.
Okay.
It used to be the Western News. Before that, it was another business. And actually an artist, George Anglis, he designed that building back in the 50s. He was a local artist back in the early days. I never met him. I met his wife, and I know his children. But that was another place. We were working in there in the winter. There was 3 of us, and it ended up growing to like 6 of us. And that's okay. There's enough space in there. But the heat, there was no heat on in there. They had it set to 2 degrees just so the pipes wouldn't freeze. And it was a cold winter. So we were in there painting. We had sweaters, vests, toques on, see your breath, but we were painting, and you do what you can to get through, right? That was one winter's, yeah.
I think it was a very valid point, and one thing that I wish was provided more is space for emerging artists, not just painters or musicians, but like one form of art that I have a really weird understanding why society hates is graffiti, and that they don't give space for graffiti artists.
They used to have a space down in the old Penticton
building,
yes. Yeah, and I used to ride by there every day. Yeah, it was,
But
that was
they've
awesome.
stopped.
Some talented
And
stuff.
now-
And then when they got rid of that wall, all the tagging started going out into the buildings. Thank you.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of, luckily Penticton is very accepting with their graffiti artists, because the alleys and Main Street are covered, and it's just the artists allowed to do it, which is nice, because I have friends who have done the graffiti behind what is now the Hub.
Okay.
There was a bunch of graffiti back there for years that my buddy did.
Oh, that was nice stuff.
Yeah, the Casp one. He's a really talented artist, and now he does businesses. Like, businesses hire him to come and graffiti the inside of their shop.
He found it.
And that's the thing, like, yeah, if we could allow a space for them to thrive without looking at it like it's a crime. Because I just saw this post the other day on Facebook, and it was a young graffiti artist was arrested for vandalizing.
Okay.
Good on them for arresting him and making him clean it and stuff. But his work.
Press like that you can't buy.
His work was amazing. Okay, so I'm looking at him like, it's bad that he vandalized, but can we give him a spot to work? Because man, is he good. And
Pull
it's
him
like,
up, put him on
right,
front of the
exactly,
cameras
because
here.
I'm just like, and then I started to think, I'm like, if we allowed a space for all different forms of art to be allowed, especially the ones that are not accepted, like graffiti, because painters can paint at home, but that is this form of art that is like, you have to go out and vandalize, unfortunately, to be able to gain your skills, because there's nowhere you can just throw a can up and start working on, right? With a canvas that size. And they're huge pieces, right? Yeah. So it is very like, you got to give and take. If you don't want the younger artists to vandalize the cities, give them a little spot for them to work. And that's like you're saying, like, give a space like where the Shadford building was doing a few years ago, where they had artists in there, woodworkers and sculptors, and then it shut down.
Yeah.
That was a prime location for arts. It's right downtown, right beside the school. How else could you inspire them to come in and, hey, come take a class? So I feel like that was really good until it stopped. And I wish that there was more more of that, right? Because like,
there's a little bit. Their house has some studio space that they give out really at an affordable price to artists. But you get in there, it's a 1-year thing, and it's like now you're back to square one again, and yeah,
it makes it difficult. And I find that your story is extremely inspiring, because like you said, you've made it from where, I don't want to say rock bottom, but you made it from being an artist who is struggling to, this is your career. Like, this is what you do. You paint, and people buy your artwork, and you do these massive murals that are lasting. I want to say that's easy 20 years that one more mural's been up there.
25 now.
Yeah, like
a lot of sun on there. Some bleaching.
Would you ever go back and adjust that, like fix that up? Or would that have to be like a commissioned repainting?
They'd have to the city would have to be involved, I think. Yeah, or the Elks Hall or something.
A lot of bureaucracy behind it.
There's that. I mean, the insurance guys getting there, you're going to be on scaffold. It's all got paperwork's got to get done, and you know how that goes. And so it's just probably more to it than just going up there with a brush and tidying it up, knowing that there probably was a lifespan on that thing anyways.
Do you think you'd ever do another large piece that scale at this point?
I'm getting a little long in the tooth for those big jobs.
That's why I'm curious. Are you comfortable where you are with the scale that you are now? Because you've always been trying to grow it. Yeah. Are you happy where you are now, where it's relatively 10 by 10 within that region? Or are you doing bigger pieces than that?
No, I mean, for me, a nice sized canvas is 6 by 8 feet, or you know, that's a good canvas. I can really dig into that.
That's so intimidating.
It's like, and so when it's 5 by 7 feet, it seems a little bit.
It's not quite big enough.
Yeah, but it fits through the door easier.
It's so true.
And it's a sickness, really. I don't know. I mean, but I love it. It makes me happy.
Well, I mean, like I said, when I first showed up, I showed my daughter this, and she was absolutely mind blown. And she's not even 5 yet, but she loves painting. So she's like, "Wait, you can do that with paint?" And I'm like,
"Well, maybe I'll inspire her."
Like her mom's an artist and her mom's a painter, and I would love if she continued art, because that would be for me, that would be the ultimate win as a parent. It's like my kids continued to follow a passion that they had.
Yeah, but I was telling you early on, it's like my earliest memories about my loss. He's gone now. My uncle David, as a young boy, I guess he was just a brilliant artist, and he was drawing in books. You know, he flipped the pages, and horses would run, and cars would change, and whatever. So he was doing all this stuff, and it was in the basement. And so I'm like 3, 4, and I'm finding this stuff. I'm going through it, and like, well, I'm just like, this is crazy. And David never stuck to arts. He was too smart. He got into science, and you know, he was an inventor. Did some crazy stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of smart people, and it flipped right over. I learned that in biology. It jumps generations. So it flipped right over me and landed on my kids. And that's okay. I mean, they have a better chance of things, but really I am the dumb one of the group. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, I would question that, because it takes a heavily intelligent person to be able to paint on the level that you do, because it's not just patience, skill, understanding. There's a lot that goes into it, and I think that most artists were really bad at certain things, like maintaining rules and structure and like
cleaning their brushes
yeah,
after.
right? Like we're good at what we're good at, and that's why artists are appreciated, and especially great artists like the Da Vinci's and stuff, right? Like, he was not normal. I guarantee no one really understood him when in his time, right?
Yeah, I bet not.
But now he's the one that everybody remembers, but did they remember anyone who judged him? No, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's why I love artists, because it doesn't matter if you're a scientist or you're a construction worker. At the end of the day, what is remembered when 300 years down the road is our music, our culture, and our food. It's not the carpenters, it's not the politicians, it's not the, well, rulers, yes, but not necessarily all of them. But art is what defines a culture. And I think that to embrace that a little more nowadays, because Europe is very supportive of art, massively supportive of it, and a lot of the rest of the world is. North America is just so young, and we're still developing our identity as a culture, because there's buildings in Europe that are 3 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's buildings in Europe that are 3,000 years old, and Canada's barely hitting a quarter of that. So as we slowly grow and evolve, I feel like the artwork that, especially from our regions, because there's so much talent hidden in the Okanagan, is going to be like what is remembered down the road. Like your paintings and my buddy Scott's artwork, and like that is what is defining our culture at this time. And you get to be a part of that, which is to me is a really cool thing, because what you're doing is magical. Like, it doesn't, like, the camera won't justify when you're actually sitting and you see the strokes, because when you're far away, and like even pictures, right? When you're looking at the whole thing from that's a major scale down to like an image on a phone, you don't appreciate it. No. It doesn't give you that awe factor until you walk into the studio and you're like, oh my God, his paintings are massive. And then the time that you put into them, I'm excited that we get to sit down and learn your story, your history, and then dive into your process here shortly, because I don't want to say it's a dying form, but the skill set that you have, I don't think is getting achieved anymore.
Well, painting's been declared dead a few times, but it always seems to come back. Mm-hmm. There's some wonderful painters in the valley, and
yes.
I don't feel alone at all with what I do. Yeah.
No, do you think that? Do you ever see yourself slowing down and doing something else other than art or painting, like another hobby that you enjoy?
At this point in my life,
you're never too old to start something new.
I'm the boringest guy ever. You know, what is a hobby? You know, like building a race car set or golfing. Would you ever do small scale painting? Maybe like model painting, and like going like taking a model and then painting it like some crazy cool idea or theme. Yeah, it's not on the to-do list.
Right? That's where it's like if you found your lane and you've made it, but it's as like I always see artists just like, I want to do something different that I've never done. Is there anything that you wish or you'd want to try and do?
I think I'm still doing it. You know, I've tried all sorts of different crazy things to paint. Always like, what's the hardest thing to paint? Well, go look at a 1959 Pontiac in the front end. that's a problem solver, that one. You know, so there I am digging into it, and then there's the rust that you got to throw in there and whatnot, and I enjoy it. You know, I seek the challenge. I live off it. If it's easy, I move on. It's just done. I know how to do that. We're moving on.
Yeah, fair enough. If you were to give aspiring artists any piece of advice to help them start their career, what do you think it would be?
You've got to embrace art history. You just got to. And the sooner you get to Paris and wander around those halls, the better it is going to be for your career, because then you're going to see the level that you're going to aspire to, right? And you won't get that really in North America. Excuse me. But that'd be one thing for sure. Build up your photo files. Always have a strong photo files, because it's just what you work from, right? You get an idea, it's like, oh, I need some crows. And you look at animals, birds, you know. And I learned that when I was in the I guess the commercial art game. I was playing around with a guy, and he had this folders, and everything's digital now. It's different. Everything changes, but it is this kind of the same. And patience. Don't ever be in a rush. You know, you got to enjoy this ride, right? Painting is about learning, right? How do I challenge? It's a challenge. How do I do this? And if you got an area that's boring you, put the most energy into it. Make it exciting. You know, if you got a blank wall behind a subject, it's like a lot of artists, I think, would probably just paint it white and then move on. It's like, well, I want to, you know, put some gradient in the color. Let's see some texture, you know, and just do things like that. I guess, I don't know. It's sometimes I feel guilty if I encourage young people to get in the arts, because it's such a hard game. Most artists don't make it past 30, and then next thing you know, they're 30 and they're trying to catch up in their life, you know, and that's a hard thing too. It really is a very hard career.
Yeah, if anyone asks me if they should get in the music industry, I always say no. That is not because I don't want competition. I'm like, 'cause you know what, the stress.
Yeah.
It's if you love something enough, the money doesn't really matter, but to have to survive, money matters, and that's the hardest.
I always loved hockey. I loved the game. I loved the fluidity of the game. It was a beautiful thing when you had 5 minds working in sync, and it's such a fast-paced, thinking game, and it's a great workout. It was just, and your camaraderie with my friends I made for life. I had built the studio with my friends from the hockey team, you know, and it's one of those things. And art kind of is like that too, right? You got to be able to just love the moment, right?
Yeah.
The difference with hockey is as you get older, your game kind of goes downhill. You got to learn how to cheat a little bit here and there. Whereas in art, hopefully your game's going uphill, and as you get into old age, you can carry on with, you know, some degree of proficiency.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the hardest thing about being an artist, is it's not sports you can get really good at really quickly by putting in the hard work.
Yeah.
You can't there's no shortcuts with an artist. You can't skip music theory. You can't skip understanding how to play your instrument or use your paintbrush and understand color theory. If you want to be successful, you have to understand all aspects of it and learn and fail. And I think that right there, the failure aspect, is what scares a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, art is kind of, like you say, it's all gone digital now. It's AI. You know, people want a poster made, AI, done. You go back into the days, say Michelangelo or Leonardo, whatever, those guys would have their own little team of artists, whatever. And if you were an apprentice, I think you would spend 8 years just learning color before you even hit the brushes, right? So now you go to art school, and it's like a 2 or 4 year program, and color is something that's kind of briefly talked about it, but really not to the degree that it could be. I mean, to learn color properly is a big thing, and it's a good thing to learn if you're an artist, to be able to get that struggle of the color out of the game and then become sure-footed.
And that's actually a perfect segue into what you want to dive into at the beginning of the next section, which is
if you're a young painter and you want to, know how to go about it, I think this is a good show for you to watch. It's the second segment. I remember the first time I put oil paint to palette, and I had never had a lesson or anything, and I was just like, and then I make mud. Oh man, it's like, so I didn't touch the oil paints for years afterwards. I mean, I finally got back to art school and then slowly got back into it. My drawing skills were always there, but the painting skills were quite a bit different. The brush is different than the pencil.
Well, I'm excited, and we can dive into it right now. So we're gonna stop the chat portion of our stream, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the live demonstration. So we'll be right back.